I am Sam, Sam I am. I do not like green eggs and ham. One fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish. I know these stories, and I know them well. These stories by Dr. Seuss have much to tell. We know him as Seuss, but his name was Theodore. If you keep listening, I'll tell you even more. When he was a boy, he loved his mother to read. Who knew where that love of reading would lead? As a boy, he drew elephant ears on a giraffe and other funny animals that would make people laugh. But it was hard to make a living as a person who draws. And then one day, on a ship, he heard something and paused. The rhythm of the engine worked out a strong beat and inspired him to write and to think that I saw it on Mulberry Street. 25 publishers said no to the book, but a friend said, "Hey, Theodore, let me have a look." That friend saw a good thing. It was the end of hearing no. Dr. Seuss, his middle name, was born as an author, we know. He wrote many books for those just beginning to read. He knew very well just what curious kids need. Kids wanted imagination and fun, not a pain, like the boring old stories of Blah, Dick, and Jane. He started this work in 1957, and that was that. His first book for young readers was The Cat in the Hat. That very same year, he wrote another book, you see, as Seuss had an opinion about Christmas, had he. Christmas was getting just too much about things, and he wondered about what Christmas really brings. He wrote The Grinch That Stole Christmas, a now much beloved tale, because he knew that Christmas was not at all about retail. Seuss lifted up family, community, and songs of goodwill, sung hand to hand, heart to heart, as we stand still, ever thankful for love and thankful for hope. We're in this together, and that's how we cope. Seuss himself started Grinchy about Christmas, and then his own heart grew as he wrote the Grinch story. Amen. He went on to write stories that sound very you. Which ones, you wonder? I'll give you a review. His book, Horton Hears a Who, seeks wisdom and truth from all, whether high and mighty or very, very small. Respect and honor everyone, Dr. Seuss teaches in his book about prejudice called The Sneetches. Believe in your ideas and listen to others is the Yodel the Turtle lesson. Go ask your mothers. Insist on justice and peace, said the Butter Battle book. From revenge and violence, we must unhook. Stand up for the earth and all in life's web, the Lorax warned, or our planet will ebb. Oh, the places you'll go told of life's joys and sorrows, but it's made us look forward to all our tomorrows. Seuss wrote from his brain and he wrote from his heart. His drawings are now considered high art. It is said that Seuss was a UU, but that leaves us in a lurch, for there is no record that he joined a UU church. But his wife was UU, and this we do know, that sometimes, just sometimes, off to church he would go. So it seems very likely, it seems right and true, that Dr. Seuss can be called an honorary UU. We're glad for his wisdom and all of his fun. We say, thanks a lot, Dr. Seuss. Thanks a ton. I just have fun with that, I must tell you. I might do all my sermons that way. And now the UUCO Grinch Players would like to present its production of The Grinch That Stole Christmas by Dr. Seuss.
Down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot, but the Grinch, who lived just north of Whoville, did not. The Grinch hated Christmas, the whole Christmas season. Now please don't ask why, no one quite knows the reason. It could be his head wasn't screwed on just right, or it could be perhaps that his shoes were too tight. But I think that the most likely reason of all may have been that his heart was 2 sizes too small. But whatever the reason, his heart or his shoes, he stood there on Christmas Eve hating the Whos, staring down from his cave with a sour, grinchy frown at the warm lighted windows below in their town. For he knew every Who down in Whoville beneath was busy now hanging a mistletoe wreath.
And they're hanging their stockings.
He snarled with a sneer.
Tomorrow is Christmas, and it's practically here.
Then he growled with his Grinch fingers nervously drumming.
I must find some way to stop Christmas from coming.
For tomorrow he knew all the Who girls and boys would wake bright and early, and they'd rush for their toys. And then, oh, the noise! The noise, 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 noise! That's one thing he hated. The noise, 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 noise! Then the Whos, young and old, would sit down to a feast. And they'd feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast, 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 feast. They would feast on Who pudding and rare Who roast beast, which was something the Grinch couldn't stand in the least. And then they'd do something he liked least of all. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, would stand close together with Christmas bells ringing. They'd stand hand in hand, and the Whos would start singing. They'd sing, and they'd sing, and they'd sing, 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 sing. And the more the Grinch thought of this Who Christmas sing, the more the Grinch thought,
I must stop this whole thing. Why, for 53 years I've put up with it now. I must stop this Christmas from coming. But how?
Then he got an idea. An awful idea. The Grinch got a wonderful, awful idea.
I know just what to do.
The Grinch laughed in his throat, and he made a quick Santa Claus hat and a coat. And he chuckled, and he clucked.
What a great Grinchy trick with this coat and this hat. I look just like St. Nick. All I need is a reindeer.
The Grinch looked around, but since reindeer are scarce, there was none to be found. Did that stop the Grinch? No, the Grinch simply said,
If I can't find a reindeer, I'll make one instead.
So he called his dog Max, and he took some red thread, and he tied a big horn to the top of his head. Then he loaded some bags and some old empty sacks on a ramshackle sleigh, and he hitched up old Max. And the Grinch said,
"Giddy up!"
and the sleigh started down toward the homes where the Who's lay a snooze in their town. All their windows were dark, quiet snow filled the air. All the Who's were all dreaming sweet dreams without care. Then he came to the first little house on the square.
"This is stop number 1.
The old Grinch hissed, and he climbed to the roof, empty bags in his fist. He slid down the chimney, a rather tight pinch, but if Santa could do it, then so could the Grinch. He got stuck only once for a moment or two, then he stuck his head out and the fireplace flue, where little Who's stockings all hung in a row.
These stockings
He grinned.
are the first things to go."
Then he slithered and slunk with a smile most unpleasant around the whole room, and he took every present.
Pop guns,
And bicycles,
roller skates,
drums,
checkboards,
tricycles,
popcorn.
and plums. He stuffed them in bags. Then the Grinch very nimbly stuffed all the bags one by one up the chimney.
I wouldn't touch you with a 39.5-foot pole. Given the choice between you, I take the seasick crocodile.
Then he slunk to the icebox. He took the Who's feast. He took the Who pudding.
And he took the roast beast.
He cleaned out that icebox as quick as a flash. Why, then the Grinch even took their last can of Who hash. And he stuffed all the food up the chimney with glee.
And now,
Grinned the Grinch.
I will stuff up the tree.
And the Grinch grabbed the tree and he started to shove when he heard a small sound like the coo of a dove. He turned around fast and he saw a small Who, little Cindy Lou Who was not more than 2. The Grinch had been caught by this tiny Who daughter who had gotten out of bed for a cup of cold water. She stared at the Grinch and she said,
Santa Claus, why? Why are you taking our Christmas tree? Why?
but you know, that old Grinch was so smart and so slick, he thought up a lie and he thought it up quick.
Why, my sweet little tot,
The fake Santa Claus lied.
there's a light on this tree that won't light on one side. So I'm taking it home to my workshop, my dear. I'll fix it up there and I'll bring it back here.
His fib fooled the child, then he patted her head, and he got her a drink and he sent her to bed. When Cindy Lou Who went to bed with her cup, he went up the chimney and stuffed the tree up. Then the last thing he took was the log for their fire. Then he went up the chimney himself, the old liar. On the walls he left nothing but hooks and some wire, and one speck of food that he left in the house was a crumb that was even too small for a mouse. Then he did the same thing to the other Who's houses, leaving crumbs much too small for other Who's mouses. It was 15:15 dawn, all the Who's still abed, all the Who's still a snooze when he packed up his sled, packed it up with their presents.
And ribbons.
And wrappings.
And tags.
And the tinsel.
And trimmings.
And trappings. 3,000 feet up the side of Mount Crumpet, he rode with his load to the tip-top to dump it.
Pooh-pooh to the Who's.
He was grinchiously humming.
They're finding out now that no Christmas is coming. They're just waking up, and I know just what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open a minute or two. Then the Who's down in Whoville will cry, boo-hoo! That's a noise,
Grinned the Grinch.
That I must simply hear.
So he paused, and the Grinch put a hand to his ear, and he did hear a sound rising over the snow. It started in low, and it started to grow. Sounded merry. It couldn't be so, but it was merry, very. He stared down at Whoville. The Grinch popped his eyes. Then he shook. What he saw was a shocking surprise. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, was singing without any presents at all. Christmas from coming, it came. Somehow or other it came just the same. And the Grinch, with his Grinch feet ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling.
How could it be so? It came without ribbons, it came without tags, it came without packages, boxes, or bags.
And he puzzled 3 hours till his puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't before.
Maybe Christmas,
he thought,
doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a little bit more.
And what happened then? Well, in Whoville they say that the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. his heart didn't feel quite so tight, he whizzed with his load through the bright morning light, and he brought back the toys.
And the food for the feast.
And he himself, the Grinch, carved the roast beast.
Let's sing our meditative hymn, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. It's hymn number 1008 in your teal hymnal. We'll remain seated to sing this hymn number 1008 in your teal hymnal, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place.